If you've ever thought, what if a bank just kept making the same mistakes over and over? That's what Credit Suisse did right here. This bank was older than the light bulb, older than the telephone, older than Switzerland itself as a modern country. 167 years of Swiss banking prestige, and in March 2023, it collapsed in 72 hours. They survived the Great Depression. They survived 2 world wars. They survived the 2008 financial crisis, but then they just kept failing. One scandal, then another scandal, then another, and another. And by the time everyone realized what was happening, it was too late to save them. But what if you just kept watching? What if we traced every failure from 2008 to 2023 to see how a bank this old, this respected, this Swiss, just disappeared in a single weekend? Hit subscribe and comment which city you're watching from, because what happened to Credit Suisse is happening right now to Deutsche Bank, to regional banks in America, to institutions everyone thinks are too big to fail. And the pattern is identical: scandal, loss, until nobody wants to save you anymore. Let's start at the beginning. Credit Suisse was founded in 1856 to finance Switzerland's railroad system. By the 1900s, they were one of the most respected banks in the world. Swiss banking meant safety, secrecy, stability. If you were rich and wanted to hide money, Credit Suisse was where you went. If you were a country and needed a loan, Credit Suisse would give it. They had $200 billion in assets under management. They employed 50,000 people. They were a pillar of global finance. And then came 2008, the financial crisis that destroyed Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. Credit Suisse survived, but barely. They had massive exposure to mortgage-backed securities. They needed a government bailout from Switzerland. They had to raise emergency capital, but they made it through. Everyone assumed they learned their lesson. They didn't. 2011. Credit Suisse gets caught helping wealthy Americans evade taxes. The U.S. Department of Justice investigates. Eventually, Credit Suisse pleads guilty to criminal charges. They pay $2.6 billion in fines. This is the first time in decades a major bank pleads guilty to criminal conspiracy, but they kept operating. Nobody shut them down. They just paid the fine and kept going. 2014, they get caught helping Russian oligarchs launder money, more investigations, more fines, but they kept going. 2017, Mozambique hidden debt scandal. Credit Suisse helped the government of Mozambique hide $2 billion in loans that were supposed to buy tuna fishing boats, but actually bought weapons and disappeared into corruption. More fines, more apologies, but they kept going. By 2020, Credit Suisse had a reputation problem. Every wealthy client knew that Credit Suisse would get caught. Eventually, regulators were watching everything they did. Their stock price was declining, but then came the disasters that actually killed them. March 2021, a family office hedge fund called Archegos Capital Management, run by Bill Huang, was making massive leverage bets on stocks. Huang was borrowing billions from multiple banks, including Credit Suisse, to buy stocks on margin. And nobody at Credit Suisse checked what the other banks were doing when Huang's positions collapsed. Credit Suisse lost $5.5 billion in a single week. $5.5 billion. This wasn't a market crash. This wasn't a recession. This was pure incompetence. Credit Suisse's risk management had completely failed. They didn't know how much money they had lent to one client. The CEO resigned. The risk management team was fired. But the bank kept operating. October 2021, Greensill Capital collapses. This was a supply chain finance company that Credit Suisse had partnered with to create investment funds. Greensill was basically a Ponzi scheme, disguised as trade finance. They were lending money to companies that didn't exist, using fake invoices as collateral. Credit Suisse had sold $10 billion of Greensill funds to their wealth management clients when Greensill collapsed. Those funds became worthless. Credit Suisse clients lost billions. Lawsuits were filed. Regulators opened investigations. The Swiss financial regulator FINMA said Credit Suisse had seriously breached supervisory law, but they kept operating. By late 2022, Credit Suisse was bleeding. Wealthy clients were pulling money out. The bank reported losses for 5 consecutive quarters. Their stock price had fallen 80% from peak. Every week there was news of another executive leaving, another scandal emerging, another loss announced. February 2023, the bank announces a loss of $7.9 billion for 2022, the largest loss in Credit Suisse history. They announce a massive restructuring plan. They need to raise $4 billion in new capital, and then the chairman of Credit Suisse gets caught on video saying customers were showing a lack of confidence. This creates panic, because if the chairman admits confidence is low, then it's already over. March 8, 2023, rumors start spreading that Credit Suisse is running out of money. Clients start withdrawing deposits faster. This is the beginning of a classic bank run. By March 14th, the bank has lost $110 billion in client withdrawals in just 6 days. $110 billion. March 15th, Saudi National Bank, which owns 9.9% of Credit Suisse, announces they will not invest another penny. This is the signal to the market that nobody wants to save Credit Suisse. That night, Credit Suisse's stock crashes another 24%. By March 16th, Swiss regulators realize Credit Suisse will collapse within hours if they don't act. They arrange an emergency takeover by UBS, Switzerland's other giant bank. The Swiss government guarantees losses. The Swiss National Bank provides $100 billion in liquidity. UBS agrees to buy Credit Suisse for $3 billion. This is 99% less than Credit Suisse was worth 5 years earlier. By Sunday, March 19th, the deal is announced. 167 years of Credit Suisse erased in a weekend. $17 billion of Credit Suisse bonds are wiped out completely. Shareholders lose almost everything, and Swiss banking's reputation for safety dies with it. Subscribe now and share this with someone who thinks Swiss banks are safe, because Credit Suisse proved that it doesn't matter how old you are, how prestigious your history is, or what country you're in. If you just keep failing, if you just keep losing money, if you just keep breaking the law and paying fines without changing behavior, eventually nobody will save you. The pattern is clear. One scandal alone won't kill a bank. But if you just keep going, if you just keep making the same mistakes, the question isn't if you'll collapse, it's when. And history shows us that when a bank this big fails this fast, the contagion spreads, and the next crisis is already beginning somewhere else right now.